Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. Work programs are underway in Finland and planned for Canada this summer. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol ADD, on Frankfurt symbol 82A1, and the OTCQB symbol ASDZF. Please visit our website arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sharon Noble, Director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. Welcome back to the show, Sharon.
Thank you so very much, Jim.
BC Hydro caught misleading the public or authorities again. What's the story there?
Well, in the Times Colonist and in the Vancouver Sun about a week ago, there was a report that BC Hydro had been caught by the BC Utilities Commission misleading the Commission about a major project that they wanted to undertake, buying new technology. Now, it was only $200 million, but they basically overstated the benefits, overstated the risks, failed to do their due diligence appropriately, and Adrian Dix at one point accused them of deliberately misleading so that they could get this project approved. And they're being called on it now. And one of the justifications or explanations for it, according to the this article, is that BC Hydro people are just nervous about providing all the information. In fact, what it says here is instead it pointed toward a culture of confusion, misunderstanding, and fear of dealing with independent regulatory processes. BC Hydro is due by law to report to the BC Utilities Commission on what it does. If it is afraid and has misunderstanding about the regulatory process, this just undermines everything they do and that they're supposed to do. And this confirms exactly why we're in the smart meter dilemma that we're in. I wrote immediately to the author of that article, Rob Shaw, and said, this is exactly what happened with the smart meter program. And I listed close to 10 lies. And I call them lies because they have proven to be completely untrue, and they aren't just misleading statements. They are things that BC Hydro either knew or should have known when they proposed this program. And even though the Liberal government at the time wrote the Clean Energy Act in a manner which said that BC Utilities Commission had no authority, had no regulatory authority, because they wanted to push this through for their friends, I believe. Would this have been approved if the Liberals had had the full story? Would the public have just sat back as much as it did and not fight this? The public did fight. We had at one point 250,000 homes out of 1.8 million homes. That's a pretty significant proportion who refused to have analogs for one reason or another. But I believe if the public had known more of the things about this program, that they would have fought even harder. And, Jim, I don't know if we have time, but here are just a few of the misstatements that Hydro is still putting out in its letters and in its articles. Today, I got 3 people sending me letters that they got from Hydro who they want to come and change their analogs this week. And they're giving the same lies. BC Hydro is saying that Measurements Canada is the one who's responsible for making them change the analogs because the analogs don't meet their new standards. This isn't true. I contacted Measurements Canada, and Measurements Canada told me that there was no new requirement. Their only concern is that the meter that's used is accurate. They don't care if it's digital. They don't care if it's analog. They don't care if it's a smart meter. They just want it to be accurate. They also are saying that the analog meters are outdated and can't be recertified or replaced. This isn't true. Analogs have a life expectancy of 30 or 40 years, if not more. And in U.S. states, big states like California, Oregon, Washington, New Mexico, people are being allowed to keep their analogs permanently. If they can do it, why can't we? Is hydro that less efficient? Yeah, I think they probably are. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be allowed to keep something that's safe and accurate. Hydro's also said that the grid won't work if there are gaps, if analogs are allowed to be remaining on homes. This isn't true. Right now there are 10 to 15,000 analogs and the grid is working. And even more bewildering, there are 50,000 non-functioning smart meters. They're putting smart meters in areas where there is no cell communication. Why they're doing this, I don't know. But there are 50,000 smart meters that are being read manually. These devices are on homes for no reason. I could go on and on about the costs. They told the government and they told the public that the smart meters have at least a 20-year life expectancy. That's not true. Industry representatives told the U.S. Congress that smart meters have a 5 to 7 year life expectancy. They're just made of plastic. They're cheap plastic computers that need constant maintenance and upgrading, and they need replacement, like all computers do, after just a few years. We aren't being told the costs for these replacements. We're not being told what happened with the analogs. The analogs were perfectly good when they took them off our homes. They're made of glass and metal, and they have a very long life expectancy. We're going to be paying for 3 or 4 smart meters during the 20-year life expectancy. I mean, we were misled in every possible way, whether it's cost, whether it's the environmental issue, whether it's the health issue, whether the fact that they're fire hazards. I am suggesting that the Auditor General review this smart meter program and look at it honestly. Are there any benefits at all? So far, I haven't seen any, and the government and BC Hydro haven't found any that they're reporting. The costs continue to go up. How can they not when these things are constantly having to be replaced? How can they not when they're having to pay for smart meter fires that are occurring? And those are continuing to occur, Jim. I get a report because I complained to the BC Utilities Commission. The fires were occurring. They asked Hydro, they demanded that Hydro provide them with reports every 6 months for the next 2 or 3 years on incidents where the meters have failed, where they've burned, etc. In the most recent period for a report, January to July of 2018, BC Hydro has reported on 30 incidents. And that's not just 30 incidents for the last 3 years. This is 30 incidents for the last 6 months. And each time I've received a report, there have been similar numbers. How many more homes have to burn? How many more lives have to be put at risk? And if you remember, I did a fire report and submitted it to a whole bunch of people, including our Premier, the Energy Minister, and everyone last September. And I still don't have any response. I provided 600 pages of documentation, and I've received not one response. Shouldn't the Auditor General be looking at this sort of stuff?
We'll have more with Sharon Noble right after the break.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Vatic Ventures Corp. is a potash exploration company focused on the Korat Basin in Thailand, the world's largest undeveloped potash resource. Vatic's management has extensive potash exploration and development experience in Thailand. Vatic will have marketing advantage compared to Western producers. Drill program commences this spring. Vatic trades on the TSX Venture, symbol VCV, and on Frankfurt, symbol V8V2. Visit our website, vaticventures.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sharon Noble. Sharon, if BC Hydro is misleading the BC Utilities Commission, I mean, does this verge on being either negligent or malicious or negligent or perjury?
Jim, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I sure wish that some lawyer would look at this because it's wrong. I don't know if it's illegal, but it sure seems to me that we have been led down a path where we're going to be spending more and more money for fewer and fewer benefits and for more and more risks. I don't understand why this is allowed. I do know that in, I believe it was 2010, 2011, there were several articles in the Tyee where they followed the money on the smart meter program. And there were a whole lot of liberal buddies who were part of the ITRON group or were on the board of Corex. I think that this needs to be revisited because somebody somewhere needs to follow the money to find the true answer. We all know that more money is being spent, hide the fact that there are fires. Hydro is having to pay the insurance companies that are spending out money on the fires that have occurred. I can't get any information on this. Shouldn't the public be able to get information on what's happening? And as I told you last time, I believe, Jim, I can't even find out how much money has been gathered from the extortion fees. I and thousands of other people have been paying $32.40 a month since December 2013. This could be over $50 million. I don't know how many millions. It could be even more than $50 million. It's not been accounted for. I've asked everyone. I've asked the BC Utilities Commission. They said they don't have any financial information on it. I've written Hydro over and over and over. And the last thing I received was, nope, there's no information available to the public on this. Likewise, I've asked how many meters have been replaced, how much money has been spent replacing these meters that have this very, very short lifespan. They won't tell me whether this is negligence, whether this is just irresponsibility. Somebody's hiding this information for some reason. And I believe we must demand that the Auditor General do an in-depth review of this program from start to finish. Let's find out what's happening. Hydro told me that their final smart meter report was provided at the end of 2016. The program isn't over. And that final report in 2016 had not one mention of the extortion fees. Nowhere along the line did they mention anything about how many fees, how many dollars, how many millions were gathered from people like me and from thousands of other people. Neither did they tell how much in additional costs were spent to read our meters. According to BC Utilities Commission, those fees were needed for people to read our meters. $50 million to read our meters over the last 5 years. Boy, they pay a lot of high salaries if that's so.
Couldn't you just send a picture in of what your meter says?
Or call them in?
Yeah.
There are a lot of ways we could have done it. BC Hydro, the meters are only read twice a year. This is $50 million. I'm sorry, twice a year, every 2 months. But in some instances, where people are, what's the term? I can't remember the term. There is some way where the people are paying a flat rate, and then they adjust it at the end of the year. Those meters are only read once or twice a year, but yet they're being charged $32.40 a month. It's not fair, and we have a right to know where this money is going, but we can't get it. John Horgan won't respond to any letters. Energy Minister Mungo will not respond to any letters. The BC Utilities Commission says that they have no information. Is nobody in control of BC Hydro? It sure doesn't seem like it. And that's what this article that Rob Shaw wrote. You know, it sure seems like nobody's in charge, nobody's putting their feet to the fire here.
We'll have more with Sharon Noble right after this.
I'm Kelly Jennings, CEO of PowerBand Solutions. PowerBand is a cloud-based provider of auction, inventory, and finance solutions that make buying, selling, and financing vehicles more efficient. PowerBand Solutions trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol PBX and on the OTCQB symbol PWWPF and on Frankfurt symbol 1ZB. For more information, please visit us at powerbandsolutions.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sharon Noble. Sharon, you're very concerned about a deal struck between the Vancouver School Board and BC Hydro about a substation. Can you tell us about it?
Absolutely. BC Hydro has approached the Vancouver School District and said it wanted to build a new substation under the Lord Roberts School. The substation emits extremely high levels of magnetic and electric fields. These fields are a known carcinogen. Scientists around the world are warning that children especially should not be exposed to this sort of thing. It's the same sort of power that comes off those high power lines that go over homes. Children have suffered increases in leukemia around the world when they live near these high power lines. The substation is going to have power lines coming in and going out. And these things don't stop. You know, they're not stopped by ground. This is going to expose children and teachers to high levels of magnetic fields forever. And the BC Hydro said that they would pay for a new school to be built above this substation, and they're also going to give money for some new school or additional schools and daycare centers in Cole Harbour. This is part of the payment that they're doing in order to be allowed to do this. It's kind of like a bribe. We have had parents, galore ask, please don't do this. Put this someplace else. We've had scientists writing in, warning about the dangers from exposing the children to these power lines. And yet, it's been agreed upon. The school board agreed to it. It was in the Globe and Mail a week or so ago. This is really, really dangerous stuff. And I think it's just a matter of time because before the school board will be held responsible. They're allowing this, and the trustees are supposed to be protecting children. That's their job. That's their only job, to make decisions to protect the children in these schools. And they've blown it. And I believe these school trustees could be held legally liable when the children start becoming sick. But these power lines that are going to be under the ground, no one's going to know about it. People will forget about it. And then all of a sudden, there will be cancers, there will be leukemias, there will be major health problems here, Jim. And there's no reason for it. This is just for the convenience of Hydro. There is no other reason for it. Hydro could be putting these things in an area where there are no people, especially where there won't be children. Children will be spending years here, years of their formative life when they are most vulnerable. Living and going to school, playing. There's going to be playgrounds for other children when they come during the summer. This is going to be very, very dangerous. And this is a precedent. if they're allowed to do it here, what other schools are they going to want to go under?
Also, for people just walking along the street, what kind of microwave radiation are they being exposed to with brand new cars that rely on these anti-collision systems that use radar?
Well, this is something that's going to be in my update tonight. And there is a very important article by Dr. Rob Kostoff, Kostoff. He starts off by saying non-ionizing radiation has become ubiquitous in our daily lives and is expanding rapidly. But he's looking at cars in particular. He says the cars have become a Faraday cage. They have Bluetooth. They have RF. He's taken measurements in the cabin of vehicles and have found power frequencies and cell phone radiation that is off the chart. It is higher than is allowed, even by our Safety Code 6 standards. Magnetic fields are extremely high near the driver, especially around the head and lower body. In hybrids, where the highest readings occurred on the passenger side, he's worried about the fact that there are more and more of these gadgets, whether it's the cell phone, whether it's the Bluetooth, whether it's the GPS, but there's something that is more recent, and it's radar. And these are being put in cars supposedly for safety, so that they can warn cars when they're going into other lanes, or now they're using radar to show people when they're falling asleep, to warn people when they're falling asleep. They can shoot it toward the passenger or toward the driver and measure reaction time. These things are crazy. And the fact is that with the radar, they were going to, the FCC in the U.S. had agreed that they were going to turn off the radar when the car is idling, so that it would reduce the amount of radiation in at times when it's just idling, whether you're at a stoplight or you're in a traffic jam, you're surrounded by other cars that are emitting radar. Passengers walking or pedestrians walking in front of cars will be subjected to very high levels of radiation. But Toyota asked the FCC to not require this reduction during idling period, and the FCC agreed. So now the radar levels will be high at all times. So if you're sitting say that you're waiting to get out of a hockey game and you're in a parking lot and you're surrounded by all these cars, or on a ferry waiting to get off, you're going to be surrounded by cars emitting high levels of radar. And this is milliwaves. These are the ones that right now are going to be coming from microcells along the street. The level of radiation, Jim, that we're going to be exposed to in cars is so extremely dangerous. And even more so because you're going to be sitting in this metal cage where it's going to be reflecting off the car itself. The levels of radiation will be reflecting back and increasing. There was a response to Dr. Kostoff's article from someone in Greece, and his name is Dr. Metsis, and he's a PhD in engineering. And he talked about the fact that he believes the level of radiation in cars is going to be so high that it won't be sustainable. People are going to become so sick, and it will even affect your reactions. We know that many people get headaches, their visions become impaired, their reactions become slowed when they become exposed to radiation. And he says this is going to happen where it becomes dangerous to drive. In Sweden, this is what this fellow says. He says people who are sensitive are especially vulnerable to this radiation that can exceed 100 milligauss. Now, milligauss is the measurement for electromagnetic fields. And many scientists are saying that even 1 milligauss is too high. And this is 100 milligauss. And he said people who are sensitive are being forced to search for pre-2000 year models, or else they can't drive cars. And he said in Sweden, where there are more than 200,000 sensitive citizens these are people who have registered with the government and are given special exemptions by the government for their health. They say that they have special maps that are showing the roads that these people have to take to avoid cell towers along the way, because right now, as we all know, cell towers are along roads. We can't avoid them. And soon the microwaves are going to be along all the roads. This is absolutely ridiculous. You know, these cars with all the gadgets, they aren't necessary. We don't need cell phones in cars. We don't need Bluetooth in cars. We don't need radar. We don't need Wi-Fi. None of these things are necessary for us to drive our cars. But it's getting to the point where you can't find a car that doesn't have it. It's really, really becoming a horrible situation. And there are studies now that show that many young kids are suffering addictive problems, and they are becoming addicted to microwave radiation. They are exposed to this from the time they are in utero, and as they grow, their systems haven't been able to adapt. We know that the level of autism increase is substantial. It is now something like 1 in 40 children who are autistic. Teachers will tell you most teachers have at least one autistic child in their room. This is something that the system is not going to be able to handle much longer. It's disruptive. These children have very, very special needs. And people like Dr. Martha Herbert, who is a doctor at Harvard, a medical doctor who teaches at Harvard Medical School, I believe it is, she deals with autistic children, and she has found that their hyperactivity and their disruptive behavior increases when they're exposed to wireless devices. These children won't be able to ride in cars. This is something that our entire system now is evolving. We can't exist without being exposed to wireless radiation. And more people are going to become sick. Cancer is the least of our problems. Neurological problems, other problems like sterility are increasing substantially. Many doctors and scientists are now saying that we are so overloaded with this stuff that Dr. Paul, for instance, says it's only a matter of 2 or 3 more generations because before we won't be able to continue producing healthy children. We need to take this seriously, and no one is.
Sharon, is there a website people can go to find out more about this stuff?
There certainly is, Jim. It's www.stopsmartmetersbc.com. And on my website, I give links to many of these studies and to many of the experts who are making these statements that we need to take so seriously.
Sharon, thank you so much for chatting with us.
It's always my pleasure, Jim. Thank you very much.
My guest has been Sharon Noble, director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Any questions for our guests or the show can be sent to info@howstreet.com. You can find us on YouTube at Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.